Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I posted a video, but here we are. As you already know, today's video is a 2025 reading journal setup, and I'm very excited about it. This is quite a long video, so grab yourself a cup of drink of your choice and a snack, and let's get started. Besides the notebook for my journal, I will need some other stuff like the dual tip brush pens, some clear silicone stamps. That set is my recent find, and I will leave a link to it in the description box below, along with the links to some other items I will be using in this video. Of course, I needed some old book pages. Some were sent by my pen pals and some were thrifted by me. I will also use some scrapbooking paper and the sticker sheet with the books and bookshelves. Also, some stickers with quotes and phrases. I always use this in my crafts. Some simple circle stickers will be in hand too. And of course, lots of ephemera from AliExpress and my pen pals. I always enjoy using the stuff my pen friends send me along with their letters. These washi tape stickers are some of my favorites, and the colors suit the theme of my journal perfectly. Some other washi tapes I plan on using are these ones. Two of them are thrifted and two of them are gifted by my friends, and there's not much left of two of these rolls, so I just really want to use them in this journal. And now it's finally time to start decorating. First things first, I need to glue these two pages together, as the one in the front is a standard one meant for the data such as your name, your phone number, your address, and stuff like that. And I don't really need that page. Of course, I could have just tear it apart from my notebook, but it doesn't look nice after, so I'm gluing it instead. As you can see, the paper here is pretty thin, so you can still see the signs, the stuff that is printed on that page, even though I glued it to another page. And I will probably end up just covering that page with some scrapbooking paper and maybe doing a simple collage, but I don't really like how it looks now. For my reading journal for the year of 2025, I picked this notebook with dotted pages and fake leather cover. It's from the same brand that I used in the previous year, and the biggest reason behind this choice was the fact that I already had this notebook in my stash for some time now, and this year I decided against buying a new notebook until I use all of those that I already have. I've already prepared the titles for my pages beforehand, and I wasn't very original with the title for my first page, so it only says Reading Journal 2025. The main star of this page is the sticker from Lisa's Cozy Stickers. It actually kind of defined the vibe and the colors for this setup, and now you can probably tell that this year is yet another year when I went with a simple vintage sort of theme for the main pages of my reading journal. I have to admit this wasn't my first choice for the theme, because I really had this idea of creating a space or galaxy themed setup, but I wasn't sure if that would be a great choice, even though I love the theme very much. At some point, I just decided that I will create a galaxy themed spread for one of the months of the year. And that month will probably be April. This year, I plan on posting a monthly reading journal updates, so you can subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see my April's theme later, as well as the other upcoming reading journal videos. And if you're curious about my 2024 reading journal setup, there's a video on my channel and I will leave the link to it in the description box below too. As for this journal, I must say that even though I decided to challenge myself to not buy any stationery this year except for some necessary items like glue or pen fillings, I also anticipated that I will be setting this journal up, so I prepared beforehand and bought the sticker for the main page of the setup and also the sticker sheet you've seen in the beginning of the video at the end of the previous year. Another new item I purchased for my reading journal was the silicone stamp set, but that will probably serve me for years, so I think that was quite a nice thing to buy. For this page, I've used lots of the extras my pen pals had sent me through the past few years. So if we are pen pals and you recognize something you've sent me in this video, make sure to say hi in the comments down below. Also, that's why I don't have the links to everything that I've used for the spreads of this journal. So if you don't find a link to something particular, that means I simply don't have it, because I was gifted that item or I don't have a link to it anymore. I was wondering if you have already set up your reading journal for this year. What theme have you picked for it? Please let me know, I'm very curious about it. I know it's already March, so it's a little weird to be setting up a journal for the year, but better late than never, right? And I hope this year has been treating you well so far. For me personally, this past month of 2025 have been pretty chaotic, but they passed pretty fast, and I hope the next month will be more chill. As for my reading goals for this year, I decided to go easy on myself and avoid any big challenges and numbers. If you remember, my last year's goal was to read 100 books, and now I can tell you I've failed miserably with that. I only managed to read 84 books in general, which is still quite a good result, but it's not what I was aiming for. The mistake I've made in my planning quickly became very obvious to me. The thing was, I gave myself a strict list of the books that I must read that year, but I simply ended up not liking some of those shortly after I started reading them, and I also lost my interest to some other books from the list as the year passed by. And that is basically the reason behind why I haven't read all the 100 books I planned to. This year, I decided to avoid any strict lists and just go with the flow. So that means I will be able to pick and choose the books as the year passes by. And if you'd like to recommend a book to me, please go ahead. I'll be very excited to add some new names and titles in my TBR list. I like reading all genres, except maybe romance and romantasy. That's not my vibe at all. But besides that, I'm open to pretty much anything. I would love to know what was your favorite 2024 read, and what is your favorite 2025 read so far too. I haven't read that many books in January, and I haven't finished any books in February, but I've already finished 2 books in March, and I can't wait to talk to you about those. So my next reading journal video will be a reading journal update for both January and March, and that video will be up in April. I suppose that will be another long video, so please bear with me. March is traditionally a month when I try to read more books from female authors. I don't really give each month a strict theme or prompt anymore because I don't do great with that, but some books just seem to be perfect for some particular month or seasons. Do you prefer seasonal reading, or do you just pick whatever you want to read, not sticking to the season at all? I personally can't read a book with a winter setting in summer. It just feels weird, but it's absolutely okay if you do that. Meanwhile, the first page of my reading journal is done, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Even though I decided to not overwhelm myself with book challenges this year, I simply couldn't skip the traditional challenge of reading the number of books that corresponds with the number of the year. I'm sure you heard about it and seen it in other creators' videos before, and this year I plan on reading at least 25 books, so it's 25 in 2025. The amount is quite reasonable, and I believe it will be much easier to stick to this number than to 100 something books in a year. As for this particular challenge, I needed to make a separate spread because I've had some books in mind before setting this journal up, so I decided to add some of them to my TBR list for this year. I also decided to not push myself to read a book if I don't really like it. That was something I did last year when I literally hated some books but forced myself to read them, which led to procrastinating reading in general. That was a bad reading habit of mine. I always did my best to finish all my reads even if they weren't interesting or exciting. And now I'm curious if I'm the only one out there who does that. Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to learn about your bad reading habits too, if you have those, of course. For my layout here, I didn't pick anything fancy again, just some washi tape, old book pages, and scrap paper. But even though it looks quite simple, I filmed this video in 3 sittings, and I've spent a ton of time editing it. And that is actually the reason behind me not posting this video on a proper date that was in the schedule that I posted at the end of February on my YouTube page. So yeah, this video just took me so long to film and so long to edit. I really hope I will be much faster with my next video. Also, one of the videos I plan on posting next will be a journal with me video, where I will be filling a whole journal. The journal won't be too big, obviously, but I've seen the color the whole coloring book with me and fill a whole sketchbook with me videos so many times before, and I really wanted to do something like that, but with a journal. I was also thinking of making a journal 24 hours challenge video, and that may come out sometime in late spring or early summer. The idea of it seems very exciting to me. Of course, the video won't be 24 hours long, so don't be scared of that. And I will probably use lots of different journals to keep it interesting too. Journaling in general is one of my favorite hobbies, along with penciling and reading, and I can't wait to share some of my thoughts and insights on it with you. Also, if you're watching this video right after it's posted, make sure to check my Instagram to choose a sticker to decorate the cover of my reading journal. I couldn't decide it myself, so I posted a poll for you to choose it for me. This year, I will be mostly using three journals: a planner, a reading journal, and a movie journal. Of course, I will be using some other journals for my collages and junk journaling, but those three will be my main ones. How many journals do you use on a daily basis? Do you have a movie or a series journal, or do you use a reading journal as your all content consumed journal? I have two separate ones for my books and my movies or series. It seems a little easier for me, but I've seen other creators using their reading journal for other form of content such as games and movies too. Of course, you don't necessarily need to have a journal for everything. You can have one and use it for the actual journaling, collages, reviews, and such. And now let's get back to this journal. This spread will be filled with the prints of the book covers from my TBR list. I picked some of the upcoming books as well as some of those recommended by friends and seen on Book Talk, and I also added some books from the last year's list. I also have to admit that the idea of having those silicone stamps was more entertaining than actually having them. I haven't used stamps in a while, so it was a little harder for me to achieve the results I wanted from the first try, and you'll see me making a mess with those stamps a lot in this video. I also didn't use my stamping pad this time. Instead, I opted out for my brush pens and they did just fine. I only have a black stamping pad and I don't really feel like I need to buy lots of different colors because in most cases I use my markers or brush pens. That helps to save some money, and also I don't clutter my space with the materials I can easily replace by those I already have. Fun fact, I used to hate using silicone and rubber stamps, and I avoided those for years until I actually decided to give them a try. There wasn't any particular reason for it. I don't know why I was so against them in the past, but I'm happy that I changed my mind. Have you ever felt something like that towards any material or tool? I've printed and cut out all the book covers for these pages, so you don't have to be stuck here for ages and watch me cutting all those tiny pieces. Also, please let me know if you recognized and read any of those books. At the moment I'm posting this video, I've already read some, and I can wait to share my thoughts with you in my upcoming video. And here comes one of the mistakes I've made with my new silicone stamps. I haven't calculated everything before sticking the book covers to the pages, and they were a little bit too small to look good with a book rating stamp. And once I glued down the covers, I quickly realized that didn't look nice at all. Plus, the stamp prints turned out too uneven, so I ended up covering them with a correction pen and sticking some rating prints that were left from the previous year's setup. I will be using that stamp for my monthly reviews, but using it for this layout wasn't my brightest idea. But that's okay, we all make mistakes and it's fine. Plus, It's a mistake that can be easily fixed. So for the rest of the spread, I simply continued gluing down the book covers and the reading prints. This time, I didn't set up the pages with all of my reads of the year. I plan on adding them once this journal is fully complete. I don't think that I will need more than 2 spreads for that purpose, but we'll see. And for now, I don't want to leave too much space and end up not reading enough books to fill it up. And I also don't want to leave too little space and end up not knowing where to fit everything I've read. I hope that makes sense. Meanwhile, it's time to set up the next 2 pages of the journal. The first being the yearly reading tracker. I've made this page in my 2024 reading journal as well, and even though I didn't fill in the tracker every day, I only sat down and filled it at the end of each month. It was very interesting to see how many days of each month I was actively reading. Do you add a yearly reading tracker to your journal, or do you prefer a monthly version of it? This time, I didn't draw it by hand and used a ruler instead. It was way faster, and I liked the straight lines way more than those I drew by hand last year. For this tracker, I used the brush pen that I used for all the titles for my pages. I really like this beautiful earthy toned green color. It fits the whole aesthetics of my journal perfectly. Since the tracker itself wasn't too big and didn't take much space on the page, I decided to decorate it heavily with all the book pages, stickers, and ephemera that I had. Because, well, why not? If you are considering creating a tracker for your journal, please make sure you calculate everything before sticking it to the page. The length and the number of boxes are very important. I've seen other creators also doing separate trackers for the audiobooks, paper books, and ebooks, but I mostly read ebooks, so I decided that wasn't necessary for me. Also, I personally don't listen to audiobooks at all because I get distracted from listening and drown into my own thoughts instead. Some of my friends are very into audiobooks, but that format wasn't meant for me. As for the paper books, I haven't bought one for years now because I don't have much space to store them. And the ebooks seem to be a perfect solution for me. They don't take any space except for the space on my tablet and pocketbook. Plus, I don't have to deal with the books I didn't enjoy because I can simply delete them from my devices. So that's an absolute win-win for me. What is your preferred book format? I know my take on audiobooks may seem controversial and even offend some, but I believe we're all different, and some things that work for you won't work for me, and vice versa, and that's fine. Some of my friends avoid reading ebooks because they get bleary eyes and lack the feeling of a paper book, pages under the fingers, and that's okay too. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you prefer your books. The only thing that matters is that you actually keep reading. And I'm so happy that these days people turn into reading more and more. Seeing people with the books in the subway makes me so excited, even though I'm not an author or publisher, so that doesn't actually benefit me or affect my life, but I can shake that feeling off. Have you ever felt something alike, or is it just me? I'm also always very curious about other people's reads, So I try to make out the title of the book if I see someone reading a paper version. Of course, I tried to do so without interrupting them or making it too obvious, but yeah, I'm very curious about the books other people read. As you can already see, I've pretty much covered this whole page with ephemera, so the tracker will really stand out. And again, you don't have to use lots of materials and tools to create a nice looking page. And you don't have to use them at all if you prefer something lighter and more simple. I plan on talking more about journaling on a very tight budget in my upcoming Journal with Me video, and I will also post some ideas on how to not overspend on journaling materials on my Instagram later this month too. Some of the basic tips and advices from me are: use whatever you already have. Old book pages or ad materials, old magazines and tags. Learn some basic calligraphy to create beautiful titles for journals. And if you want to purchase some stickers or washi tapes, try to look for the items that are very versatile, something that can be used for many different occasions, something that fits a lot of themes and aesthetics. Trust me, you can create a beautiful spread out of something simple and basic. I myself didn't have a ton of supplies when I first started my journaling hobby, but it didn't stop me and it shouldn't stop you too. Okay, if you hear any weird noises, please don't mind them. That's my pet hamster going bananas in his running wheel. It was a surprise for me that a creature that small can also be that loud. His cage is right next to my table, so he usually makes me a company while I'm journaling, crafting, or writing letters. For this page, I decided to give my new silicone stamps yet another chance, and I picked the framed ones. And this time, I'm actually pretty happy with the result. I used the same two brush pens again, so everything looks cohesive. I won't be talking much about the whole process of me decorating this page because, well, everything is pretty self-explanatory, and I also used all the same materials that I used for every other page of this setup. So the stickers, the washi tapes, some scrapbooking paper, some stamps, some ephemera, and that was it. And that is something I prefer doing for my setups, whether it's a reading journal or a movie journal or a planner, so all of the pages look cohesive and nice together. The second page of the spread is for the book bingo. This is something I wanted to create for some time now, and here is the bingo I set for myself. It has 9 boxes, and those are a book that was published this year, a paper book, a book with a number and title, library book, reread, a book in English, book series, a book that was published in the year I was born, and a book that was recommended by a friend. I won't be talking a lot about the decoration of this page, but I'd like to talk a little more on the themes I've picked from my bingo. The first box is for a book that was published this year, and at this point I already know what book I'm going to read for that particular category, as I've been dying to read it since it was announced. And that book is the latest Susan Collins. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And the book is The Sunrise on the Reaping. It will be published later this month, and I can't wait to read it. The thing is, I'm a big fan of the Hunger Games series. I love the movies and I absolutely love the books. Fun fact, it was the first movie that has actually introduced me to the trilogy, and I've read all three books in mere days. I've watched all the movies. The first one is still my favorite out of all, and I've read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes too. That's why I'm extremely excited about the upcoming book. Do you plan on reading it? Have you read the Hunger Games series? Let me know, I need to talk to someone about these books. The second category in my bingo card is a paper book. For this one, I'm not sure if I will be purchasing one or I will be reading a book some of my friends has borrowed me, but both of these options are valid, so I might end up just reading a book from a friend instead of buying a copy for myself. The next box is for a book with a number in the title, and for this one, I'm not sure which book to pick. I don't have a particular book in mind, so I will be grateful for any recommendations from you. A library book is pretty much self-explanatory. I haven't been to a library in years, and the last time when I visited a library, I was studying at the university. And that time I've only visited the one that was our university's library, so they didn't have any fiction books, just the ones that were necessary for our studies. And I would love to start visiting a library again. It's such a great opportunity to discover new books for free, and I also enjoy the calm and quiet atmosphere of those places. When was the last time you've been to a library? The next category is a reread. And oh my, I have so many books that I want to read again, so it will be difficult for me to pick one. I thought about rereading Pride and Prejudice, which used to be my favorite book, and I haven't read it in a while now, but I also would love to read the Hunger Games series to freshen up my memories before reading the new book. Anyways, we'll see how that goes, and I will keep you updated on that. The next category stands for a book in English. And I decided to choose this because English is obviously not my first language and I don't read books in English that often. Last year, I only read one book in English, and that was A Woman and Me, which is a memoir written by Britney Spears. And I was a huge Britney fan when I was a kid. Still am, actually. I was waiting for that book, and it was a good read for me, all in all. It has quite a lot of heartbreaking details from Britney's biography, so it's definitely not a light, fun read. But sometimes one's story can't be truthfully told without mentioning everything, both good and bad stuff that has happened. So this year I want to read another book in English as it was a nice experience for me. And I believe it also will be very good for extending my vocabulary. I'm almost done with this page, but I still haven't talked about three categories that are left in my bingo card, so I will continue talking about them when I'll be showing you the next spread. Here's how this page has turned out. I really like the frame I created around the bingo card. And now it's time to move to the next spread, which is a book recommendations one. I don't have much to say about this spread because it kind of explains itself. These two pages are reserved for the recommendations I will eventually get from my friends and pen pals, also for the books I will see on TikTok and Instagram and such. I'm again trying to stick to the same style of layout I created for the previous pages, So this spread is very simple. And as I've told you before, I still have something to say about my book bingo, so let's get back to that. One of the last categories left is book series, and I'm not sure if I will only read one book from a series and it will be that, or if I will manage to read a whole series. Last year, I've read the Maze Runner series because I used to love the movies back then in 2010, and I thought it would be a great idea to read the books to find the similarities and the differences. Also, it was my first time reading them, so I didn't really know what to expect, and I read the whole series too, even those books that didn't make it to the screen. To sum up, it was a strange experience. I think I would have loved the books if I were younger or if I actually read them back when I watched the movies, but I didn't enjoy them that much being a grown up. Also, the last two books were poorly translated, and I cringed all the time reading them and finding so many mistakes. I also planned to read the Mortal Engines series last year, but after The Maze Runner, I wasn't really in the mood for reading another long series of post apocalyptic books, so I skipped that. I might try to read those this year, but I'm still considering that. What is your favorite book series? Do you have any recommendations for me, maybe? I prefer something lighter, and I'm not a fan of the series that have more than 3 books. So, if you have anything that fits this criteria on your mind, I'd love to hear about that. The next box in my book bingo was for the book that was published in the year I was born, and that would be another difficult box for me to put a check in. The thing is, I was born quite a long time ago, and I have already looked up for the books that were published back then, and unfortunately, none of them spoke to my heart. I think I will try to do more thorough research to find something that fits my interests, and I will definitely keep you updated on that. The last category of my bingo card was a book recommended by a friend, and it's an easy one. At this point, I have a huge TBR list with the recommendations from my friends, and I hope you will also help to add some books to it. So I don't think I will have any issues with that particular box. All in all, I won't pressure myself on filling in all of the boxes of my bingo. That would be great, of course, but I want to read the books I want to and not read the books to simply put a check mark in my reading journal. And that was everything I wanted to say about this year's reading bingo of mine. Have you made one for yourself? What did you put into the boxes of yours if you did make one? And now you're about to witness yet another mistake I've made with my silicone stamp. So this time I decided to use a small stamp with the phrase fiction addiction. I thought it would look fun and fit here nicely, and that's what I did, except for the fact it was upside down because I was in a rush and didn't pay enough attention. But that was another mistake that I could fix in a minute. I took off the sticker and glued another piece of ephemera onto that one, and then I actually used the right side of the stamp. Journaling is a fun process and a great hobby, and you can make little mistakes here. And even if you do make some, it's fine, you can either fix them or pretend that's how it's supposed to be. I've added quite a lot of decorative elements to the spread since last year I only managed to fill half of the page with the recommendations, so it turned out that I don't really need too much space. In most cases, I make screenshots of the books or movies my friends recommend me, or those from Bookstagram or BookTalk, and when I have some free time, I sit down and write those onto the pages of my journals. Another interesting thing that I've noticed, I've had more luck with the books than with the movies and series. I usually end up liking the books that were recommended to me, but it's a whole different situation with the movies, and that's a mystery to me. I was also wondering if you'd like to see my movie journal monthly update videos. So please let me know if you do in the comments down below. Meanwhile, it's time to set up the last 2 pages of this reading journal. Even though I didn't pick any special challenges for myself this year, I decided to choose some that will go along with the reading process naturally. And the first challenge is A to Z reading, which basically means I need to read the books with the titles that start with A, B, C, D, and so on until Z. I'm sure you've heard about this challenge before. It's very simple, and I know I will eventually read books with different titles that start with different letters, and I will probably manage to read 26 books this year, so it won't be that hard to complete this challenge. Some of the books I've read this year already fit into this challenge. Plus, I don't have to complete it. If I can't find a book for a particular letter, that's fine. As I've already told you before, I'm way more chill with my reading goals this year, so I will be fine if I won't complete any of the challenges I set for myself. But at the same time, I will be happy if I manage to complete all or any of them. Do you set any reading goals and challenges for yourself? I've seen lots of different ones. There are challenges where you need to read a book of someone's choice each month. There are series challenges. There are challenges where you need to read the books from a particular author and so on. You can always find something that will suit perfectly for you. And there's also lots of different book clubs that you can join. They also provide interesting reading challenges from time to time. For example, one of my friends has created a book club on her own, and she had a challenge where they read short books for a week straight. And I think that was a great idea, and they got to discover lots of different authors and genres in such a small amount of time. That is truly genius. And I believe that friend of mine watches this video, so hi there, Maria. As for my next challenge and the second page of the spread, I decided to pick yet another one that will go along with the reading process. So that's why I went with the Read by Color challenge. It will be a simple one too, because every book has a cover and those are pretty colorful. That's a challenge I would recommend you if you don't want to overwhelm yourself, but you still want to add a fun element to your reading and journaling. First, I need to measure where the book covers will go on this page. I do that using a pencil and print of a book cover, and then I simply trace everything with a ruler. The decorations on this page are pretty simplistic because I don't want it to look too busy once all the covers are glued on. So this time I've only made a frame with washi tape and some other small elements. I also wanted to apologize for the light. My camera didn't feel like working that day. At this point, I can say that I have read one book that fits perfectly in one of these challenges colors. I picked 12 colors, which are red, orange, yellow, green, light blue, dark blue, purple, pink, wine, gray, black, and white. The covers of the books don't have to be the same exact color of the liners I've picked to mark the spaces for the book cover prints. There are tons of different shades of each color, and no one can have pens or markers in all those shades, obviously. And I'm still kinda confused about the covers that have multiple colors on them, so they don't really fit into any category. For me, that means I will probably just not use them for this challenge, and this page will only have the covers that are monocolored. The brush pens I used for the colors were the same ones I used for the page titles. I've had this 72 double-sided brush pen set for some years now, and they're still quite fine, except for the fact that the colors in general are very bright and can be a little bit streaky sometimes. I use them to write the titles in my journals and the names on the envelopes for my pencils too. To mark the color for each book cover, I simply outline two boxes under the space that is meant for the book cover with the liner side of the brush pen, and then I filled in with the actual brush pen. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And for the white color, I used my correction pen. It worked very well. And this is how it's supposed to look after the book cover is there. Also, that was a small spoiler of what I plan on reading this year. To finish up this page, I'm adding some decorations to it, and that's it for this reading journal setup. I decided to not go too overboard with the challenges and trackers this year, but if you have watched my previous reading journal setup, then you know I've added more pages to my setup this year. Last year, I only added my TBR list, a page with a reading tracker, and a page for some book recommendations, and the title page, of course. Looking back, I can say that I'm way happier with this year's setup, but I'd love you to tell me whether you agree or disagree with me on this. And that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and watching it. If you liked this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, or even consider subscribing to my channel. Have a wonderful day and stay creative.